Hello, loves. Let's have a chat and channel session today about narcissists. So, I received a channeling from my guides, and I am sure that it will be fitting for a majority of you because if you are here, you are more than likely an empath. And if you are familiar with my work or you've worked with me personally, you may have heard me speak about the empath narcissist polarity. So, in most basic of terms, empaths are overly feeling, overly tapped and tuned in to the surrounding energies. Of course, they learn to be tapped into their own, but a lot of empaths are triggered by trauma, and so they take on this role, especially early in life and then later in life until they learn to change it, where they are more attuned to other people's feelings and emotions and anticipations, and to that of the collective more so than their own. This is also why a great deal of empaths, myself included, are born to narcissistic parents or caretakers. And the polarity, or the opposite of that, empathness, is the narcissist who does not really have a capacity for empathy, can learn to fake it, but it will be a show. It will be a show for sympathy, and it will always revert back to how it can connect with and serve them and their experience. And so the empowered empath learns to cut ties and trauma bonds with narcissists, learns the lessons that the narcissists are continually trying to teach them, and works through that karma in order to stop attracting and living relationships through that polarity. Because once you've found one narcissist in your life, in your family, in your partner, however it presents for you, more than likely you're going to start looking at all of your relationships, and you're going to start noticing more than one narcissist, and then you are going to lead the pattern back to you and to what in your frequency or your soul contracts is allowing the narcissist to be around in your life. Now that's personal for everyone. That will tie into your inner child wounding, perhaps your past life wounding. I will let you know that narcissists are perhaps the greatest teachers. They would be very happy to know that until they know why. But they're perhaps the greatest teachers because they carry a shit ton of lessons all wrapped up and rolled into one. They literally carry lifetimes and lifetimes worth of lessons within one person and one relationship. Now, they are karmic, frustrating as hell lessons, but they are lessons nonetheless. So, not to be too down on yourself when you start that process of unraveling what about you has allowed narcissists to reign supreme in your life. Look at that from an empowered point of view and say, okay, well, I attracted all these people so that I could learn a great deal about myself and a great deal about human behavior in a relatively short amount of time. Now, that doesn't feel short, granted, when we're here, because it can carry on for years or decades, if it's within your own family. But in the long-term process of multiple lifetimes and of ascension, you are literally taking the MasterClass by having these people in your life. Now, that does not mean keep them in your life. That does not mean continue to put up with it. But only you can tell when you are done and when you have learned enough from that pattern, from that person, and from that situation. And even if you feel like you haven't learned enough, you always have the power to renegotiate that soul contract with the universe. Don't involve the other person, because with a narcissist, that's never going to end well. But you have the power to renegotiate that contract with the universe and say, I don't want to learn from this person and in this way anymore. Let's end that. And you can break that bond. Now, obviously, that's also going to depend on the situation and the person in your life that is the narcissist, and if you are ready and willing to do that. My problem with most narcissistic abuse recovery is that 99% of it will tell you you have to go no contact in order to be okay, in order to heal, blah, blah, blah. And the reason that so many people are not getting help is because they're hearing this message, and it's hindering their healing because they may not be in a situation where they can go no contact, or at least can't do so yet. If that person is your boss and you need that job, at least for the foreseeable future, if that person is your family member and you don't have a way yet or the ability to go no contact with them, I've seen it and I've lived it where it can hinder your healing or your belief even in the healing process. So there is another way, but the way is you have to decide you're done. That's first and foremost. You have to decide and be okay with the fact that you can only change your behavior and your reactions, and you have to give up the ghost, shall we say, and give up the hope of changing and impacting that person. You're more than likely going to have to develop thicker skin and better energetic practices and boundaries. That's something I speak about a lot and do with my clients in teaching how to reflect others' behavior and energy back at them. As an empath, our natural tendency is to absorb, and that's the narcissist's dream, because they don't want to deal with their emotions and their energy, and that's why they like to have the empath around. So developing those practices of shielding and reflecting energy back at the narcissist is extremely helpful. Gray rock method I also recommend. You can look up information on that. That can help. Be prepared for some backlash when the narcissist sees what you are doing. And then you also have to decide to stop including the narcissist as the main character or even the supporting character of your life. You have to take that role back. In most cases, they've taken and stolen that role from you. At least they are definitely the main character of the relationship you have with them, whatever that is. And you have to do your inner healing work to say, no, I'm the main character, and I'm not even willing to have you as a supporting character anymore. And you have to designate their role as just an extra in your life. So in my experience, that's the way to deal with the narcissist and go on your healing journey without having to go no contact with them. Obviously, no contact has extreme benefits, and if you can do that, and if it's safe for you to do that and you feel called to do that, please do. But I just want to offer another option here for people that can't do that yet. And these energy practices can work. They're obviously not foolproof, and they need continual work. If you're going to continue to have someone in your life, that is also a choice that you're making, that you're going to have to continue to invest energy in creating and upholding boundaries. It can get easier. It does get easier once you get into the habit of doing that, but more than likely you'll have your moments where you'll still probably have breakdown, or they'll have a lash out at you, and you'll have to deal with your own inner child wounds about their emotions and being responsible for their emotions and dealing with the weight and gravity of their response and of their words or behavior. But if they're physically abusive and if their words are threatening physical abuse as well, please look into help. Please look into help. Please look into going no contact in a way that gets you help and gets you in a safe space. I know narcissist has become a really common term now, and hopefully that makes it easier for people to get help. Because it is becoming more common to be recognized. Hopefully that helps the survivors, which you are a survivor. I don't like to use that word victim. You are a survivor. If you are here and alive and listening, you're a survivor, even if you're still in the situation. I also want to just touch on the fact that the narcissist thinks that they're the savior, and that they're the villain. You know that they're the villain. Now, that's not to demonize people. They're doing that because of their own wounding and their own inability to grow and rise and heal and change and be responsible for their own actions and behavior. But I feel like some people need to hear that, because we try to see the good in everyone as empaths and give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And you really need to stop doing that with the narcissist, because it's only feeding them. You need to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You need to realize you are your own savior. There can be others that help you, of course, but you are your own savior. That person is never going to change to the point where they save the situation. That, unfortunately or fortunately, is your job. None of this, by the way, is to consent to the continuation of negative narcissistic patterns or appearances or contracts in yours or anyone's life. Although I advise that there are other ways of dealing with it than going no contact, and I have seen that successfully work for some, including Mental Healness, who I'm going to link somewhere in the description or the comments as one of those awakened and committed to healing narcissists. This is not to romanticize or give anyone hope that the narcissists in your life may change or heal or begin to treat you correctly. I am only advising these extra options because I have seen a serious lack in the communities of those who are addressing these issues, including from the accredited psychologists and psychiatrists whose only option of people dealing with it and beginning their healing journey or continuing their healing journey seems to be going no contact. And while I love, adore, and appreciate the value and the healing level and the peace of mind that comes from going no contact, I also believe that there need to be other routes available in the public sphere, in the public space, as well as in private and personal works, so that people can have a game plan as they are establishing themselves and as they are deciding whether or not or how to go no contact, and as they are disentangling themselves from the narcissist, because whether you go no contact or not, you will need to disentangle yourself from the energetic cords, from the vampirism, from possibly the emotional enmeshment, or the legal and financial enmeshment that you may have with the narcissists in your life. So if that's a family member, if that's a spouse, if that's a boss, other things sometimes need to be put in place for people to move forward in their life, while either distancing from those people and creating safe space for themselves that way, or going no contact. And so no matter which route you take, I believe that these roads and these tools and these options should be available so that people know that they don't have to just throw their hands up in the air until they could go no contact or complete separation with the narcissists in their life. I also want to touch on the fact that soul loss and soul theft and soul retrieval is something that I do in my practice and in my quantum energy healing. And as someone who's been through a lot of narcissistic abuse, I also personally noticed that the narcissist will commit soul thievery on the empath many, many times. And so soul theft and soul loss is a totally separate subject and topic in its own right. However, just in the most basic of terms, soul loss is when part of our soul goes through such deep trauma and such shock or so much continued abuse that we either completely shut down that part of our soul. Traditional psychologists would probably call this compartmentalizing, or that part of our soul can actually become separated from us. And while this can happen in many different circumstances, including in past lives and other types of traumas, I find that it's very, very common in the narcissistic abuse paradigm, because of the fact that not only are we going through soul loss as a protection mechanism, but very often, most cases subconsciously, the narcissist in our lives will be committing soul theft. In other words, they intend to, or are subconsciously intending to, steal part of our energy, which can equate to our soul or our sacred prana, whatever way you like to look at it, because they do not know how to create their own energy. If you notice, narcissists are always vampiric in their energy, and they're vampiric by either demanding or seeking out ways for validation, whether that's in the public space, in their job, wherever it ends up being in their life, but especially also at home or within the guise of these empath narcissist polarity relationships, where they will often either need to play the victim or the hero and elicit sympathy from others, but especially from the narcissist, and then try to take ownership or rights over the empath in their life. And they will do so by probably trying to talk up all the things that they've done for you, all the ways that they've been there for you, put themselves on a pedestal above you, because in their mind they always have to be either on the pedestal or on the lowest rung of the ladder, whichever is going to at that moment get them the most attention and the most satisfaction or energy or sympathy. And so very often, either through manipulation or through continual berating or abuse, they will create the situation where they are sparking the soul loss for us by going through such turmoil as empaths that we either shut down and release that part of our soul for them to grab, or they step in and abuse it and take it by negative means. And that could be by physical abuse, that could be in depriving or neglecting of needs, of things that they agreed to carry out in the guise of the relationship. For example, if they are a parent or if they are a spouse, that could be neglecting their duties. And so they will take part of that energy. And often their exchange for that is the imprinting of their voice on our inner voice, because we've lost part of ourselves, and because we've often heard that abuse and those crazy statements that they make so many times, we can take on in our mental tracks and in our inner voice part of their voice, even if it's only subconsciously. And then we take on a habit of hypervigilance or a tendency to always expect that type of behavior from similar situations or relationships. So if we loved those people and those people were supposed to love us, whenever we take part in love, there could be that subconscious voice in the back of our heads of that narcissist, even if that narcissist is no longer in our lives. And so soul theft and soul loss can extend past no contact as well, which will often also exhibit symptoms where people can have PTSD or CPTSD type of symptoms. You can shut down more easily and just find it more difficult to feel things. You can go into the fawn or freeze response, which can also look like dissociation. Even if, again, that person is no longer around, your nervous system has been set up to re-perform those reactions. So retrieving those parts of the soul by cutting cords, by distancing contact or going no contact, and by calling those parts of the soul back to you through things like soul retrieval, which is something that I do, and many people who practice the shamanic arts tend to do. I do recommend that you do this with a practitioner. You can do it on your own. However, just be advised it is more difficult to do so on your own, especially if you are untrained, or even if you are trained, it can be difficult to do on your own because of the fact that you will be feeling things very intensely at the same time as trying to retain perspective and carry out the procedure. And also, soul retrieval in normal traumatic circumstances, although there is no norm and that's different for everybody, is quite different than soul retrieval from soul theft and those who steal or try to retain that energy. Now, that energy, frustratingly so to them, is not usable by them. However, because they have a piece of us, it can be something that they use to try to keep us entwined, keep us entangled, or maybe keep us coming back or keep us thinking about them even when we're no longer in each other's atmospheres or lives. So that's something to take into account, and you may want to journal with that. Even if you're not someone who channels, I encourage you, do a stream of consciousness journaling and see if this is something that you've experienced, and see if this resonates for you as having parts of your soul out there. Because once I did this part of my journey for myself in calling back the pieces that were broken off or lost or stolen because of narcissistic abuse, it changed so much for me, and it helped me uncover and unlock so many other patterns that I was having difficulty working through. And I've seen it work for clients and others as well, that sometimes we're just doing all the things, we're trying all the practices, but those patterns tend to repeat because we haven't gotten to the root and called back the part of our soul that can actually affect positive change for those things. So if this is something that you're called to, my first recommendation is explore soul loss and soul theft more, which you can do online or you can do with me if you're called. I offer quantum sessions and Akashic records and past life readings, which you can find on my website, 𝑇�𓋹𓓓𓋴𓍶. But the first thing I would direct you towards, if you're called to do any of this with me, is I have an Empaths and Energy Instant Access Masterclass on my website. I will be leaving the links, and you see the photo here. In this masterclass, we discuss how an empath is both born and made. We discuss some of the trauma responses. We discuss how to understand your empath superpowers, not let people take advantage of them, because we also discuss the dark empath and or narcissist, and go through an energy activation, light code activation technique for deflecting unwanted energy, which helps with narcissists in addition to gray rocking and all those other great tools, because we can deflect their energy back at them. And so we don't have to necessarily be vengeful or take the same route or tactics as they do. We can simply send their own crap back to them. Then we don't have to worry about any karma for ourselves, and they will also start to become more disinterested in our energy because they're getting a taste of their own. So I would recommend looking into that. If you are called to sessions with me, you are welcome to those as well. However, if you are really committed to exploring and doing this deep work or soul retrieval, that is something that I do in quantum energy healing and soul retrieval packages or life and consciousness coaching packages. You can find an application or contact form for that in the links in the video description as well, to see if we are a good fit for such deep works. And I want to encourage you as well, if you are listening to this close to the time of upload, this is a time where I am seeing so many souls come back online with other soul parts of themselves. So not to encourage you that or pressure you that you have to do that with me. However, if this has sparked your interest at all, please look more into that subject, and of course do it with light and respect and research and reverence, but please explore it, because in this time of major awakening and transition, the door is open for us to reclaim the parts of our soul and the energy that is ours. And I am so excited to see what the world looks like when more people start doing that and become aware of this powerful tool and technique. Now, there can be many parts of the soul that are lost to trauma and experience. Nobody can do that all at once. So if you speak to any practitioner who tells you that they could call all the parts of your soul back to you at once, I would take that with a grain of salt and maybe start looking in other directions, because the parts of our soul that want to and are ready to come back, those are prioritized by spirit. And it's not usually safe to do many soul integrations at once or in a back-to-back time period. I've developed my own practice with this, and it's different based on each person. However, there needs to be room for those parts to integrate as well, and you should leave room and space and time for yourself, whether you're doing it on your own or with a practitioner, to integrate those things, integrate those parts back into your life, back into your body, back into your energy bodies, back into the nervous system that has been so overloaded and needs to be repatterned and reset as well, and get to know yourself with those soul parts back. Again, if you are doing this with soul theft, you might have to perform some other kind of distraction mechanism or exchange or protections to make sure that that person is not allowed to take that step in your life ever again. So that's something to consider as well. And with that, I'm going to close out this chat and channel session. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. Leave a comment with anything that this has sparked for you. Please share this podcast and this information with others if you found it helpful. Save it and come back to it. Bookmark it and come back to it anytime you're feeling called, or anytime you're feeling like you need a boost or a pep talk, or going through these things again in your life. Because remember, we can go through things in patterns and cycles, and we're on an upward spiral with the cycles that we go through. So even if you feel like you're going through it again with maybe a different narcissist in your life and you thought you healed these things, please know it's not that you went backwards. It's not that you didn't heal them. It's that you are coming at everything from a higher perspective. So try not to be so down on yourself or take on those narcissistic voices as your own, because I know, and your soul knows, that you are better than that and you are worth more. And I really appreciate you for being here, for taking in this information and sticking with me, and for experiencing it or sharing it in any way that you feel called to do so. Please link and share its source and me as its source if you are sharing it publicly, to point people back here and to my information and my other channelings and teachings and sessions and offerings. I would greatly appreciate that. I would also love it if you stick around and followed or subscribed to be more in resonance with other metaphysical topics and tools and techniques. I do not only speak on the empath narcissist polarity. However, it is something that, as I said, I'm really passionate about, because I've been through it, and because many empaths and many light workers and many teachers and healers go through these things through the course of their journey. So it does not make you less than to be going through it. It means that you are on the fast track to end these negative patterns in your life and end so much karma in your life and become healed and whole again and become inspiring of healing and wholeness in others, whether you do this work or whether you're just out there as your more healed self in the world, inspiring others in that way. It's really vital and important, and I appreciate that in you. If you are called to support my works in other ways than participating in sessions or programs with me, you can also do so through energy exchange and appreciation donations. Absolutely all amounts are appreciated to keep my public works and channels going and support them, and you can do so through paypal.me/𝑇𝑧𝑒nlightenededits. The donate links will also be linked in the video description. And with that, I will see you next time with love, light, and light codes. Love, Danielle, #Damsel at 𝑇𝑧𝑒nlightenededits of damseldesigns.com. Bye for now. Be blessed.